Hey y'all, I'm Hope, and today I want to talk about all the books that I read in November. So as I'm going through this, I do have I apologize for the noise, my marble jar. If you haven't seen any of my videos before, I am currently trying to do a buying limit where I have to have 10 marbles to buy a new book. And I get 1 marble for every one of my previously owned books that I read. And then I also get 1 marble if I finish 2 challenges each month. And so my challenge books are chosen. One of them is chosen via a prompt card based on a meme that my partner likes. He made me this deck of cards a while back and I really wanted to use them. So I have one kind of meme prompt card, and then the other one is chosen via a dice roll and a random number generator in a spreadsheet that I have. So my 2 challenge books for this month, the one for the dice roll was The Hungry Earth by Nicholas Kaufman, and the card I got was Fuck Nazim, which is a book that focuses on nobility or the ruling class. And so for this I have Mazes of Power by Juliette Wade. I didn't read either of these. I spent the first half of the month trying to get through some library books that I had borrowed so I could turn them back in. And then the last half of the month I just kind of did whatever I wanted. And apparently what I wanted was not to read these 2. So I didn't read them. No bonus marble for me. But I did read 5 books and I loved everything I read this month. So I'm not mad about it. The first book I did read was Jade City by Fonda Lee, and this was not a book I owned, so I don't get a marble for it, but I absolutely loved this one. I was seeing a lot of renewed interest in the series on Twitter, or probably not renewed interest, just people were talking about it because the 3rd book was about to come out, so I finally decided it was time to pick up the series. I'd been hearing so much about it, and I just really wanted to see what people were talking about, and I absolutely love Jade City. I'm very much a character-driven reader, and a lot of Jade City is very character-driven. The plot is very driven by the individual characters, and they're sometimes conflicting and sometimes not conflicting motivations. There's a lot of characters, almost all the perspective characters are on the same side of this conflict. But they don't always agree with each other what's the best way to do things, and so a lot of the plot is driven by those interpersonal conflicts, and I found that really interesting. The story follows the Call family, who are the ruling family of the No Peak clan on the island of Kekon. There's one other clan that's kind of their rival, which is the Mountain clan, and the Call family and the No Peak clan as a whole find themselves suddenly in this kind of tense political and social situation with the Mountain clan. And so the book is very much about them trying to grapple with that. And it has to do with trade of the resource jade, which is what all of the greenbone warriors who make up the clans use to enhance their abilities. So I just thought it was really fascinating. I think that the magic system using jade as a means of increasing one's power is really fascinating. There's a lot of really interesting stuff about social status in jade and political status in jade, so I thought that was really cool. I also really loved all of the characters, even characters that you're obviously intended to hate were so well written that you kind of love them too. I just loved everything about the characters. Lana's my favorite. I just want to put that out there. And I just really enjoyed a lot of the interpersonal conflict and interpersonal dynamics and the way that played into the larger story around social and political situation. So I'm really excited to read Jade War. I think that it's set sometime in the future. I think the series spans 30 years. So I'm really interested to see how things have progressed as I get into the 2nd book. But I'm also a little bit afraid because I keep hearing that the 2nd and 3rd books of the series are extremely upsetting, and I'm excited to get to them, but I also am am I ready to have my heart ripped out? The answer is never yes, but I'm gonna read them anyway. I'm not sure when I'm gonna get to them yet, but I absolutely adored Jade City. I gave it 5 stars, and I'm really excited that I finally got a chance to start the series. The 2nd book that I read in November was The Haunting of Tramcar 015 by Peter Jelly Clark. This is another book I didn't own, so I still don't get a marble for that, but I really enjoyed this one as well. I didn't love it quite as much as I loved Jade City, but I think that similarly to Jade City, The Haunting of Tramcar 015, which is set in the Dead Djinn universe, which is made up of 3 novellas / short stories and a novel. The world there is just really interesting, with very interesting political and social, not really conflicts, but a lot of the stories involve politics and social change in Cairo, in this kind of alternate steampunk early 1900s version of Cairo. and it's just a really fun world to be in. The Haunting of Tramcar 015 is a mystery that follows these two detectives who are trying to deal with a haunted tramcar, as the title would suggest. But the mystery is more like what's haunting the tramcar rather than like, is the tramcar haunted? So they know that it's haunted, but they've got to figure out what's haunting it and figure out how in the hell they're supposed to deal with that situation, because it's something they've never encountered before. So I just thought that was really fun, and then all of that is happening along, rather against a backdrop of a women's suffrage movement, which is, I just thought that was woven together with the main story in such an interesting way, because it was really unexpected to me. I didn't actually know that that was a part of the story before I went in, and I don't want to tell you too much more about it just because I think this book is really good and you should definitely pick it up if you're at all interested in it, especially because it's very short. But there was just this really interesting way that the plot and this kind of like social political background were woven together. So I really enjoyed it, and I'm really excited to dive into the novel that's it's the one full novel that's part of the series, Master of Jinn. But yeah, I really enjoyed that one as well. And then the third book that I read in November is one that I own. This is The Way of the House Husband Volume 2, and this means I get marble. Sorry if that hurt your ears, hurt mine. Marble in my jar for that. So this is a manga series that follows this guy named Tatsu, who used to be this notorious Yakuza called the Immortal Dragon, and he's, you know, reviled amongst other Yakuza who have issues with him because he's, I apologize for the buzzing, our Ring doorbell is going off. He has, you know, all of these people that basically want to kill him because of things he did while he was a Yakuza, and then the police don't trust him because he used to be a Yakuza, and so he's just kind of like caught up in all of that. But he's just kind of going about his life because he is a house husband now. He's left the Yakuza. He's just a dude taking care of his family now and hanging out with his friends and just doing completely normal stuff. But because of the person he was before, he does everything in this like really sinister way. And it's just really funny to read, and especially because a lot of it is based on like people misunderstanding what he's trying to do and him not realizing that people find him intimidating. So it's just a really funny series. I really enjoy it. This might be my favorite manga series I've picked up so far. I haven't picked up very many, like 3 or 4, but I think this one's my favorite that I've picked up. And it's really just a nice little palette cleanser in between other things. So I cannot highly recommend these enough just because they are so fun. And then, I'm gonna move my phone again. The next thing that I read in November was The Silence of Bones by June Her, which is a historical mystery set in Korea in 1800. And this is a book I own, so marble in my jar. Try to not make it so loud. Oh my god. This is, like I said, is a historical mystery, and it follows this young woman named Sol, who she's like 16. She's indentured to the police bureau in the capital city, and this noblewoman turns up dead, and Sol gets pulled into the investigation. She's helping the police, and through the investigation she begins to befriend the inspector who's in charge of it, and they form this like really interesting friendship. And then as time goes on, it begins to appear that he might actually be the prime suspect. And Sol, who occupies a very low status in their society, suddenly finds herself needing to leverage the very limited resources that she has in order to try and clear her friend's name. So I thought this was absolutely fantastic. This is another book that I gave 5 stars. I gave 2 books 5 stars this month. And like, as much as I love Jade City, I think I love this one just a little bit more. This one really just it's beautifully written. Like, there's a lot of bits and pieces of the writing in here that just like cross my mind now when I'm going about my day. The writing is beautiful. I think that Sol's relationships with the other characters are really interesting, and because all the characters interact with her very differently depending on like their own status in the society and how they view people who differ from them in status. So there's a lot of really interesting dynamics in here. And also, it's been a while since I don't know what I'm saying. It's been a while since a book just absolutely like made me sob, but I finished this book and I closed it, and then I sat at my desk crying for several minutes because it's just got a really fascinating but really bittersweet ending to it. And it just, the emotional impact of this one is just so well done. I had to sit at my desk and cry when I finished it. I just love this one so much, and I think this is maybe my favorite historical mystery I've ever read. It's hard to say because I've read some really good ones, but I think this is definitely my top 3. And I'm really, really excited because Junher has one other book out that I haven't read yet that I want to pick up, and she has a new book coming out in January that I'm very excited about. So I absolutely love this, and I think I've maybe found a new favorite author, so it's very exciting. And then the last book I read was also a mystery, but it's a very different kind. This one is a sci-fi mystery, and it's Winter's Orbit by Martha Wells. Oh my god, do I know what I'm saying? I don't. It's Winter's Orbit by Everina Maxwell. It's, for some reason, the well at the end threw me off there. Another book that I own, though. Put a marble in the jar as quietly as I can. And this one is, as I said, a sci-fi mystery. It's also a romance. So it follows these two guys, Kiam and Janin, who, after Janin's previous partner, Prince Tom, dies, he and Prince Kiam are pushed into a political marriage in order to solidify the treaty between the Iskat Empire and Janin's home planet of Thea. Thea is one of the vassal planets, a part of the Iskat Empire, and Iskat always solidifies its treaties with political marriages. So they have to get married because Iskat is trying to renew kind of this bigger treaty with a bunch of other empires to ensure that it doesn't get attacked. And suddenly things are looking a little bit tenuous because they don't have a couple from Thea and Iskat. So Kim and Janin are pushed into the situation, and a lot of this book is about them trying to learn how to live together and to be married. Like, they've never met, and then suddenly they're married, and they're just like, well, shit, now what do we do? So a lot of this book is about them trying to figure out how to communicate with each other. I will say, of books I've read, I usually hate miscommunication as a plot element, because so much of the time it's like, if you would just talk to each other, just speak to each other, things would be fine. But I think this book actually does miscommunication in a really, really interesting way, because a lot of the miscommunication in the plot of this is done in such a way that they're not communicating. They are speaking to each other and they're saying exactly what they're intending to say, but because they're coming at it from very, very different angles, they're just not understanding what the other person is saying. They're misinterpreting each other's words all the time, and I'm actually fine with that. I think that it works out in a really interesting way here. So that's one half of the book's focus. The other part of it is that very early in the book it becomes clear that Janin's former husband Tom has been murdered, and so they get caught up in the investigation trying to figure out what happened to Tom as well. So I think this book is really interesting. It's a debut, and I think you can kind of tell that it's a debut. I think the world building here is a little bit flat, but ooh, I'm just gonna drop it right in my face there. The world building here is a little bit flat, and the plot I felt was kind of forgettable for maybe 2/3 of it, but then right near the end it got really interesting, but it was kind of dulled by the fact that because the world building wasn't fully fleshed out, there were bits at the end with the resolution of the plot that I was like, I have no idea why this is important. So I think that's kind of a weakness here, but I love the characters in this. Again, I'm a character-driven reader, so I was, I feel like good characters, for me, can save a book that I feel like isn't great otherwise. This one I think is fine otherwise, and the characters just made it a little bit better, because I absolutely love Janin, I absolutely love Kiam. It's very Janin-centric, which I'm fine with, because of the two of them, Janin is my favorite, but this book is just very focused on the relationships of the characters. So I think the other things suffered a little bit for that, but the relationships are so well done that I would absolutely read something else from Everina Maxwell in future. I think that she could write some really fantastic books. This was not going to be a new favorite, but this is one I want to keep for reference because there were a lot of really interesting ideas in here. I do also have some additional thoughts in a video that is coming out hopefully soon. Depends on how soon I can finish the next book for it. But, keep an eye out for that if you want to hear any more about what I have to say about Winter's Orbit. On the whole, though, really enjoyed this one. And those are all of the books that I read in November. I think I actually had read, like, the most pages overall that I've read all year. So that was pretty exciting, and I really enjoyed everything I read. So I can't complain about that. But that's all I have for you today, and I really hope you enjoyed this video. I've enjoyed making it. I'm very excited about my 3 additional marbles in here. I believe I have 7 now. So I'm 3 away from being able to buy myself a new book or pre-order a book. And that's really exciting. So thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye.